So now we have to talk a little bit about your own current circumstances. And of course, this could be completely variant depending on who you are and where you are at the minute. But this is a useful exercise for you to start to take a look at your own personal circumstances so you can start to see what sort of strategy you can line towards. And essentially what we're trying to find out at this point is whether you're going for a capital strategy or a cash flow strategy. And this will be completely dictated to by your own circumstances. So first thing we need to understand is in terms of how much capital have you got available. Now that would typically include things like cash in the bank, equity that you can release in your house, things that you can sell, so stocks, shares, gold bullion, whatever else that you can actually sell to be able to release some capital into your pot. Also understanding in terms of how much money you could raise through potentially friends or family that would happily invest in a project with you. So once you have a good understanding of that, that will then give you a good basis in terms of what steps you can take. The next thing you're also going to want to understand is the amount of time you can personally devote to this journey. So whether you're saying, well, look, I work, 12, 14-hour days, I barely get any time on the weekends, I've got 4 kids and I've got a wife who needs my attention, or whatever it is, or a husband, let me be clear. So whatever it is, then of course, then there might be other time elements or time drags in your life. So we also have to have an understanding of your times. Then we need to have a bit of a grasp in terms of where you are currently situated. So literally where you are situated in the country. I don't mean on the sofa. I mean where in the country are you currently situated. Now, if you're situated in the south of England, then there's certain strategies or opportunities that are better in the south, and there's certain strategies and opportunities that are better in the north. And by having a bit of an understanding in terms of where you currently are, allows you to start to see what the opportunities and options are for you based on where you are realistically. Now, we actually go through this a little bit more in depth on a one-to-one coaching session. So certainly something, if you want to go a little bit more in depth, we have that opportunity as part of the coaching program. But if not a problem. I want to make sure that you get a good understanding of what steps to take. So if we first of all have a look in terms of your personal circumstances financially, so the amount of capital you can put together. Now, if the amount of capital you can put together through multiple sources is typically going to be very slim, so you're talking sort of sub £20,000, realistically it's going to make things a little bit more challenging to go out and buy houses. So we either need to work with you on going into raising finance, okay, so this is raising finance through friends and family, getting people to invest for a nice return, finding business partners, getting partnerships underway, or doing something like a capital strategy like sourcing or flipping. Now, these strategies, basically, if you're unable to raise finance, particularly sourcing, is a great way in which you can start to build up your pot of investment. The important thing, however, is to get the ability to be able to find deals. Once you can find deals, you actually hold all the keys and you hold all the power. So what you can do from there is find buyers and align those buyers to those deals and make yourself a little bit of money that allows you to build up your investment pot to get your first amount of money ready to invest. Now, if you're wondering how much money you need to actually invest, it's probably somewhere in the reach of around 30 to 40,000 will get you in for a nice little basic buy-to-let across the north of the UK. If, however, you're in a position where you have a significant amount of money, now when I talk about significant, I mean realistically anything over sort of 250,000, whether that be your own money, whether that be equity from the house, whether that be funds raised through friends and family, shares released, pensions released, whatever it is. Okay, that is a reasonable enough amount of money to then actually go out there and start to build a portfolio. So you'd start to focus much more heavily in terms of a cash flow strategy instead of a capital strategy. So as you can see, your financial beginning immediately tells you what type of strategy you're going to go for. The next thing we want to look at is your location, your physical location within the country. Now, you may or may not live anywhere around the world. We've got mentorship students that we work with all the way throughout Asia, so Hong Kong, Singapore. We also go through Dubai, all in through Europe, so Switzerland, Sweden, Germany, France, and so on and so forth. So we work with people globally. We also have a lot of our mentorship base or coaching base right here in the UK. So depending on where you're living will also dictate a little bit in terms of how you move forward. So if you live in the south of the UK, as an example, the strategies that are open to you within a local area aren't going to be particularly attractive, and you'll also find that they're going to cost you significantly more money. So what you might find is you might have to utilize something like our viewing team, or be willing to take at least 1 or 2 days a month out to go and travel up to the north of the UK to try and find the best returning properties. Please understand your priorities, as previously mentioned, is we need to get your cash flow up as your first priority. Okay, and that is literally the first priority. Second priority is you go for the capital. So the value of the portfolio is only secondary to the cash flow. Okay, and the third priority is your legacy. Again, that only comes after your cash flow. So your cash flow is your first priority. And this is why we invest in the north of England, as we're going to explain in the next section. So if you, however, live in the north of the UK, what you might find is it's much easier for you to be able to view houses on more of an ad hoc basis, and therefore it is much simpler to build your portfolio based on the high return properties that we believe are the best opportunities for you. Now, if you actually live offshore, you live in a different country other than the UK, my biggest suggestion for you is actually to get involved with our coaching program, where you actually have the opportunity to utilize our viewing teams. Now, our viewing teams are on a first-come, first-served basis, but they do cover the entire north of the UK, and hopefully soon the rest of the UK, depending on when you're watching this video. So for me, irrespective of where you live, my biggest suggestion is you're going to be investing in the north of England. However, the things you need to be considering is, what is your personal circumstances? Therefore, or thus justifying whether it's going to be a capital strategy or a cash flow strategy. So those are the primary things you want to be looking at for yourself. The next one is taking a look at your time. So the amount of time you can actually devote to building your portfolio. If you are very time poor, what you might find is it's difficult for you to actually go and view the houses, irrespective of where it is in the country or where you are in the country. What you might find is that it would be more effective or efficient to utilize something like a viewing team or a viewer service or something along those lines, or even buying houses in good condition and relying a little bit more heavily on the estate agents and letting agents in the area. So you do have a few different options available to you. If, however, you are very time rich, and let's say you work 3 days a week, or you work very short hours, or however else your day is structured, that might then leave the ability for you to actually go and do the viewings yourself, irrespective of where you live within the country. Obviously, you can fly in from offshore to do viewings. Doesn't really make sense, but it's completely your choice. So if you live somewhere in the UK and you say, well, look, I want to invest in Newcastle because that's where I'm getting the best returns in today's market, what you might do is the night before or very early in the morning, head up to Newcastle, do your viewings, and either stay the night or head back home that evening. Now, I live down in Kent, in Sevenoaks, and as part of my journeys, I was investing very heavily in the northwest, all around the Manchester area. It's about a 5-hour journey each way. On many occasions, I would do it in one day, although my preference was genuinely to try and back-to-back a couple of days of viewings, where I would drive up all the way up to Manchester. I'd view that day, so I'd drive up really early, get there for like 11 o'clock, view that day, sleep in a hotel the night, so at a B&B, wake up in the morning, do another day's worth of viewings, and then head home that evening and get 2 viewing days done back-to-back to save me having to do up, down for 2 separate viewing days. So that is the importance, or that is how to understand in terms of how you select a strategy based on your personal circumstances.